in depth on the crucifixion of Jesus because I feel like it's a thing that's often overlooked. We probably hear a lot, Jesus died on the cross and then rose 3 days later, right? But this wasn't like a normal death. This wasn't like, something that was painless. I mean, he went through literally the worst death imaginable for us. So I'm just going to go in depth on it today. So I'm going to, try and organize myself real quick. So what I would like to note, first of all, before we get into the actual crucifixion, is that even before this crucifixion, and again, this is a man who is Jesus, 100% God, 100% man, so he knows exactly what's about to happen to him. So even before this crucifixion, he was going and he went to pray to God, to his Father, and he was saying, if it's your will, like, remove this cup from me. He was thinking so intensely and he was so anxious that he actually was sweating blood. That's crazy because I swear, I've had some intense moments, even like in football where it's like hard and stuff, but like I've never sweat blood. I can't even imagine that. So he was sweating blood because that's how intensely he was praying. And I actually have the verses for that. So it's going to be Luke chapter 22, verses 41 through 44. And he withdrew from them about a stone's throw and knelt down and prayed, saying, Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. But yours be done. So that's important to note. Like he was saying, not my will, but yours be done. Right? And there appeared to him an angel from heaven, strengthening him, and being in agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. So there's those verses that show that, he was sweating that profusely that it was like blood. So now we're going to keep moving on, right? So before Jesus was even sentenced to being crucified, he was like in jail, right? He got arrested. He wasn't in jail, but he got arrested, and they were like holding him, right? And before he was even sentenced to this crucifixion, he was already going through torture and mockery even before this, right? So he was already starting to suffer even before. And you can see that in Luke chapter 22, verses 63 through 65. Now the men who were holding Jesus in custody were mocking him as they beat him. They also blindfolded him and kept asking him, prophecy, who is that struck you? And they said many other things against him, blaspheming him, right? And so that's just like a little bit of the stuff that he went through. And we can even see it again in Matthew chapter 27, verses 28 through 31. And they stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and twisting together a crown of thorns, they put it on his head and put a reed in his right hand. And kneeling before him, they mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! And they spit on him, and they took the reed and struck him on the head. And when they had mocked him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him and led him away to crucify him. That's a lot that just happened there. He was mocked. He was spit on. They put a crown of thorns. These thorns, they're not like, little rose thorns. No, these were like big thorns, and they didn't just like lightly place it on like a real crown. Like they went hard on it to make sure that it pierced his head. It was terrible. And they, like I said, they mocked him. They were beating him with a whip that was like the worst thing ever, because it was like a whip that had a bunch of little parts, like little metal or little like balls on it that had glass shards all around it. So every time he got whipped, not only was it hurting him because of the impact, but the glass shards would stick into his skin, and then then they'd rip it out. So yeah, he was getting. Sorry, I'm getting a call. My bad. So yeah, he was getting like whipped like that bad. And I think I do have a picture of the whip. You guys can kind of see it, yeah. So
It's
that's like what the whip was like. If you want to pass the thing around. So that thing was just ripping through his back, and you know, it was terrible. Like, he was beaten very severely. I mean, there's even points where legitimately his rib cage was exposed, intestines like coming out. Like, it's really, really graphic how bad it was. And again, like, this is all stuff that he went through for people that still hated him, you know. And yeah, it was just terrible. His beard chunks were also pulled out too, and he was like getting disfigured, which it actually says in Isaiah 52:14, as many were astonished at you, his appearance was so marred, aka disfigured, that's what marred means, beyond human semblance, and his form beyond that of the children of mankind. I mean, you couldn't even resemble him to like a human. Like, that's how severely beaten he was. He was so disfigured from it all. And you know, he didn't take no like painkillers before this. Like, he felt every single thing that was happening to him, and it just got worse and worse and worse. He also had to carry his own cross that he'd be killed on. This was not like a small thing. This was like a 200 or 300 pound cross, and that's probably on the lighter side. You know, I don't know exactly, but it's like a 200 to 300 pound cross. Which, did I have a picture of that too? I think it's actually on that same thing I just was going. But yeah, so it's a cross, but it's a heavy cross. And he had to carry it after all this torture was already happening to him. So after he was already beaten, and after everything, all that just crazy things were happening to him, now he has to carry his cross. And this wasn't like a smooth wooden cross. This thing had splinters all over it. I mean, he's got splinters digging into open wounds, to expose muscle, to expose tissue, digging into it. I mean, that's how bad it was. So you can imagine, as he's carrying that cross for quite a while. Did we have a picture of that too, Mom? I can't remember.
The cross?
No, the path that he took. Or no?
Yeah, there is a map.
Shoot. Is it on that one?
It's on the physical crucifixion of Jesus Christ, the actual research paper.
This one.
Yeah.
If you guys want to pass this around too.
Show that.
And see the map. He had to carry it for miles, essentially. Yeah, it was terrible. So the whole time that he's carrying it, imagine, you know, you just got beaten severely already, just whipped, but like with the worst whip imaginable, thing that's just ripping through your skin. Now you got exposed muscle and exposed tissue, and now you're carrying a 300-pound splintery cross for a few miles, or for however many miles it was. And just a reminder that he is Jesus, and at any time he could have just said, "Lord, take this cup from me," or "Strike these people down. They're mocking me. They're killing me. No, strike these people down." He could have said that at any time, but he didn't, and that just showed how selfless of a person that he really was. And then you can see, by the way, in Luke chapter 23, verse 26, and as they led him away, they seized one, Simon of Cyrene, who was coming in from the country, and laid on him the cross to carry it behind Jesus. So he did have like a little helper with him, but yeah, I mean, it was still excruciating. And even after all of this, I'm going to go through Luke chapter 23, verses 34, just the first part of it, so 34a. And Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." So even after all this severe beating, right, where you'd think maybe he would want to take revenge on these people, what does he say? He says, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." That just shows how selfless he was, and how much he loved us. how much he loves us. That he would say, Father, just forgive them, for they know not what they do. Now, when Jesus was put on the cross, he was like nailed with nails. And these aren't, like the little nails that we have nowadays, just quick little hammer into them. No, these were like railroad picks. I don't know if anybody has seen railroad picks, but I do have a little picture of what these nails looked like, actually. Let me just describe something real quick. And also, these nails were not sharp. Like, they weren't the sharpest of things either. So you can imagine it's not just one and done. It's boom, boom, boom. And every time, because it was in between two nerves, actually, which I think I have in my notes. Yeah, it was in between two nerves, the ulnar nerve and the median. Oh, yeah, that nerve. And so it not only does that control like your fingertips, but also it sends like shock waves of pain. So every time it's just pain, pain, pain. And I do also have a graphic of that. I guess I should probably pass to Louis first on this one. So if you want to look at that, just to see kind of the sheer size and also where it was placed. So you can imagine just the pain in that. And boom, 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 boom. Okay, so these nails were put into his wrists, and by the way, like, so the area that he's crucified at, they have like a wooden stake that they would like nail the cross to. So like it's already one that's like in the air, and then they would put the cross on there, right? So while he's on the ground, they nailed his wrist, and then they lift him up. So all that's supporting him up there is his wrist, and it's just boom. Yep, that's all of his weight is just supported on nails into his wrist. So you can imagine just the excruciating pain. They were put there until they eventually would nail his feet in, which also wasn't a walk in the park either. And I have a picture of that. Yeah, I came prepared. It might be on that one, actually. Yeah, I think it is. It's on the one. It's on. Is it on that one? Is there the feet one? Is there the foot one on there too? Yeah. Okay, so you can see where it goes. It's like in like the middle of the foot. Yeah, it was bad. And so so he's hanging up like this by his wrist, and then they cross like the feet over, and then they put the nail. I almost just knocked down the TV. They put the nail into his feet now, and they also they kind of like crucified him. I don't know. I know it like says it on like the graphic, but he was like this kind, like he was like his body was kind of scrunched up, so it'd be so hard to breathe, right? And that's why they did it, so that every breath he took was the most excruciating pain that you could ever feel. Because not only is he having to kind of go up on his feet for every breath, which is already putting pain on his feet, and then of course his wrist too, because he's like moving up a little bit. But then it's like, again, he was beaten, and so he still had all these scars and all like this exposed rib cage and everything. So every breath is the worst pain that you could ever feel. And so it was just terrible. And by the way, throughout all of this pain that's going on, the whole time he's getting mocked and spit on and everything. I mean, they hated somebody who literally he did nothing wrong. They let a man, I think his name was Barabbas or something like that, or Barnabas. What is it, Mom? Do you know off the top of your head? Is it Barabbas or Barnabas? Mom? Barnabas, yeah. They let this man who murdered people. He was up for crucifixion. He did something very, very bad. They let that man go, and so they could go and crucify a completely just perfect man, which was Jesus. And then we have in the verse right here, Luke chapter 23, verse 36 through 38. The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering sour wine and saying, "If you are the King of Jews, save yourself." There was also an inscription over him, "This is the King of the Jews." So again, just the more of just the mockery and just like the torture. I mean, the whole time, and then now I'm gonna note something that I talked about, I think, a few weeks ago, which is of course the criminal who was next to Jesus on the cross. So that's going to be Luke chapter 23, verse 39 through 43. One of the criminals who were hanged railed at him, saying, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." But the other rebuked him, saying, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we are receiving the due reward for our deeds, but this man has done nothing wrong." So that criminal is saying, this man, Jesus, he's done nothing wrong. He's getting crucified for no reason. He's going through the worst sacrifice for what they seen as no reason for him to go through that, because he didn't do anything wrong. And then, of course, the criminal says, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And he said to him, "Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." And I'm noting this because that's why Jesus died for us. So that this criminal who was at the last hour of his life could right there confess with his mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord. And right there and then he would be with Jesus in paradise. This is why Jesus went through all this pain for us. It's that reason right there, so that we can have this relationship with God, and that we don't have to go through a medium, because Jesus became that medium for us, so that we can talk to God now because of Jesus doing this for us. We don't have to go through, the high priest and do all this thing and offer animal sacrifices. No, because Jesus became that perfect sacrifice, the lamb with no blemish. He became that for us. And then I'm gonna go through the rest of this. So on, I don't know how to say this sentence. Well, do you know how to say this? Can you come up real quick? Because I forgot to put the pronunciation in here.
No.
Do you know how to say that? Eloi. I don't know how to say that.
Well, it tells you what it says, right?
Yes.
There.
Okay.
Eli, lema, sabach.
I forgot to say it, but
yep, that's.
So Matthew
But
27.
look, it does say the English interpretation.
So I'm going to say
here.
the English interpretation, yeah. So in Matthew chapter 27, verse 45 through 46, "Now from the 6th hour there was darkness, and all the land until the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, my God, why have you forsaken me?" So in that moment, when Jesus was taking up all of our sins on that cross, God, because he couldn't be anywhere with sin, he literally had to look away from his own son, because God couldn't be anywhere that there was sin. And that's why these lines were uttered after that. That's why Jesus said these lines. And I would also like to point out, because it says, from the 6th hour there was darkness until the 9th hour. So that's 3 hours already that he's just going through the worst pain. The worst pain imaginable. And then Matthew chapter 27, verse 51, "And behold, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth shook, and the rocks were split." So the reason that Jesus did all of this for us is so that temple, so we didn't have to go to that temple, because the temple would now be us. The temple would now be in us, and now we can gain the Holy Spirit. We didn't have to go to the Holy of Holies anymore, because now that temple is in us. And now that Holy Spirit is in us, as long as we confess with our mouths that Jesus Christ is Lord, just like that criminal did in the last hour of his life. Let me see. So then we got John, and I have another. It was in John. So John chapter 19, 28 verses 30, which is kind of the same thing that I just talked about, was with Jesus dying, but John says it John records it in another way. So it says, "After this, Jesus, knowing all that was now finished, said, 'I thirst.' A jar full of sour wine stood there, so they put a sponge full of the sour wine on a," how do you say that? Hyssop branch, and held it to his mouth. When Jesus had received the sour wine, he said, 'It is finished,' and he bowed his head and gave up his spirit." So that was the end of his life on earth for us, Or so we thought. No, but I also have another verse in here, John chapter 19, verses 33 to 34. But when they came to Jesus and saw that he was already dead, they did not break his legs, but one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and at once there came out blood and water. So like he was full on dead. I mean, he wasn't like half dead. You know, he wasn't pulling a little like Batman trick and like stopping his heartbeat, slowing it down so much. No, like he was dead, right? And you'd think maybe that's the end of the story, but no. There's hope. There's hope in those little 3 days. You know, we find out that he was risen, and that everything that he came down here to do, that he did it. And we'll talk more about that on Easter Sunday. But to kind of finish it out, I just want to again just like point out, like, Jesus, he was brutally beaten and killed for our sake. He became this perfect sacrifice for all of us while we still hated him. He went through like the worst experience imaginable. Like I like the worst thing ever. And what did he do with that? He did it without uttering a word or complaint. I was at work today. I complained probably 9 times. You know, and that's probably lowballing. Yeah. And I think that my work's hard. You know, again, something that like sucked was, of course, when I was born and like my right shoulder and everything was bad with it and stuff. But now, of course, everything's kind of getting better with it. But I complained. I asked my mom, why did God do this to me? You know, I complained. And what I've learned now is that like I was given more of an ability than a disability from him. And I think it's made me a stronger person today because of it. And yeah, I mean, I give thanks to Jesus for this, and for God for sending his only son down here for people again that just still at the time that still hated him. And Jesus, like I said, like he was getting spit on, mocked the whole time, and he did not utter a word. He even said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." At any time, he could have very well just said, "I'm tired of this," and boom, could have gotten off the cross, could have not died at any time. But he didn't. He knew what had to be done. He knew what God's will was, and Jesus did it so selflessly and is the perfect example of just, again, like that perfect sacrifice. And the reason why I'm here today preaching is because of that. And so I would like to thank Jesus for that, for being that ultimate sacrifice. But, so that's going to close us out. Again, Sunday we'll be doing the resurrection, but we doing communion?
Yeah, we are.
Okay. I do have a verse.
Oh, what?
I do have a verse for communion too.
Okay.
But you want to share some closing things, or do you want to add anything?
Well, I just want to say, why don't we go ahead and pass out communion?
Yeah, I got you.
Like, this is something that...
This way. Sorry.
He's a linebacker. We've got a few people. Miss Brooke is gonna... I think that we're all going through, I always say it every week, a lot of struggles. I don't feel like it lets up at all. I think we have victory, and then we have more struggles, and then we have victory, and then we have more struggles. I really want to challenge and encourage everyone to start living like it is finished. When Jesus died on the cross, and rose again, he said, "It is finished," which meant it is finished if you behave. That's not what he said. He didn't say it is finished if you stay away from drinking. That's not what he said. He didn't say it is finished unless you sexual sin, or you're spending too much time on TikTok watching ridiculous reels when you could be out there, helping somebody out there in the world. Jesus didn't say any of that. Jesus said it is finished. And one of the things that I think is special about what's going on with Christopher, and hopefully encouraging the younger generation coming up, is the fact that you don't have to do a thing to get to God other than declare Jesus as your Lord and Savior and receive that sacrifice that he gave. That is it. You don't have to attend church. As a matter of fact, God would still have his way in this world if every single church went out of business. Every single church. And people need to understand that. We are fighting an enemy who sometimes can appear in a church and sometimes can lead an entire congregation down the wrong road in the name of business. And so I just want everyone out there to understand the only thing you need to do is accept that Jesus died on the cross. But then, please, this is not in the Bible, start living like it happened. And that's what I want to encourage everyone. Start living like it happened. And if you mess up, who gives us? Yeah, I'm not going to say it. Who gives a? Because it doesn't matter, because God still loves you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you go to church. God still loves you. It doesn't matter if you tune into YouTube. God still loves you. You are not going to stop him from loving you by your behavior. And then at the same time, which we'll get into another series, you also have to learn how to be dependent on God and to trust him in all of your living. So that's the word that I had. So, all right. Now, I'm not saying stop going to your church, but I'm just saying stop thinking that that's what you need, because it's all about Jesus.